and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The prayer this morning will be, through tradition, will be offered by the good delegate representing Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Huddled masses, yearning to be free. That verse comes from the poem by Emma Lazarus at the base of the Statue of Liberty. At Camden Yards this afternoon, we will remember Peter Angelos. His immigrant father owned a bar. So did the father of Babe Ruth. Mr. Angelos said of his father, he never took a vacation. What do? I do what my old man did. I work. Today, we will also remember the 6 men who lost their lives working on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Perhaps, like many immigrants before them, baseball was their pathway to enter American life, to cheer for the home team, for players from their homeland. The great Clemente from Puerto Rico, Big Papi from the Dominican. After the national anthem is sung today, the home plate umpire will declare, play ball. Some will be missing, but the game plays on. Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Is everyone recorded their presence? Has everyone? Not, the clerk will call the roll. There be 128 members present. The House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 14th, 2024.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the journal.
So ordered, petitions and other paid. Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. I would like to ask you to help me honor and recognize the amazing achievements of 10-year-old third grader Eliza Cole, who stands before us on the dais. I do not believe that we have ever honored a more celebrated or decorated athlete in the General Assembly. Let me tell you a little bit about Eliza, who goes to the School of Cathedral Mary Our Queen in Baltimore. She has 3 sisters. She loves Taylor Swift and recently did attend the concert. And she has a dog named Conrad. But the reason she is here is that a few hours after she was born, Eliza suffered a stroke, and she spent her early days in the Johns Hopkins NICU. The right side of her body will be forever affected by that stroke. So her long road to recovery was paved by the passion of medical professionals, specialists, and therapists, specifically Kennedy Krieger Institute, where she received aquatic therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy at the Fairmount School for the Constraint-Induced and Bimanual Therapy Program. These programs allowed Eliza to flex her muscles, right, and to show her spirit, and to, more importantly, fulfill her unknown potential. In an attempt to gain strength and functionality of her right hand, arm, and leg, at the age of 5, Eliza joined the Bennett Blazers Kennedy Krieger Sports Program for physically challenged students, and she found confidence, a love of sport, and impressive skill and determination. She has been described as people as having the most grit and determination of anyone that they know. But the reason she is here is that in the Junior National Championships in July, Eliza won a few gold medals. Right? She placed first and won a gold medal in javelin. Eliza won a gold medal in the 25-meter freestyle. She won a gold medal in the 50-meter freestyle. She won a gold medal in the 25-meter backstroke. She won a gold medal in the 50-meter backstroke. She won another gold medal in the 100-meter backstroke, and she won silver medals in the 100, 200, 400, and 800-meter running races, the long jump, the discus, and the shot put. Now, I think it's really important that you hear that Eliza's It's important that you know that Eliza's favorite sport is none of these. It is actually soccer. And the Ravens are her favorite team. So there are over 300 athletes from 40 different teams around the U.S. that were in attendance. And the Bennett Blazers and Kennedy Krieger, of course, were national champions again. So I have every confidence that Eliza will continue to grow, push herself to amazing achievements. And on behalf of the Cole family, grandparents, parents, and sisters, Amelia, Isabella, and Gracie, who are up in the gallery, they want to thank all of the people who work with wonderful children like Eliza, and all of us, all of you, who support these sorts of institutions. So colleagues, please join me in recognizing my constituent, maybe my favorite, and 42B multi-gold medal winner, Eliza Cole.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Eliza Cole in recognition of your remarkable determination and skill in earning 6 gold medals at the Move United Junior National Championships in swimming and track and field. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 28th day of March 2024.
Recognizing good delegate representing Charles County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. The Honorable Eileen M. Rehrmann is recognized for her outstanding dedication to the state of Maryland and role as a founder of the Women Legislators of Maryland Foundation. Her public service began with her role as Bel Air Town Commissioner from 1978 to 1982 and was elected to the Maryland House of Delegates serving District 34 from 1983 until 1990. During her tenure in the House of Delegates, she served on the Appropriations Committee, the Joint Committee on the Management of Public Funds, and Joint Committee on Ports. She was the chair of the Hartford County Delegation and also chaired the Women Legislators of Maryland Caucus, the Women's Caucus. In 1999, she was elected Hartford County's first female county executive from 1990 until 1998. Throughout her career, the Honorable Eileen Rehrmann earned many awards for leadership and distinguished service. Most notable is a critical role she played in 2006 as founder of the Women Legislators of Maryland's Foundation, Incorporated, the funding arm of the Women's Caucus that assists with achieving educational and charitable purposes. We are also pleased to acknowledge the current and first president of the foundation, former State Senator and Secretary of Aging, the Honorable Gloria Lawler. I'm asking the former chairs of the Women's Caucus and the incoming chair of the caucus to please join us in this recognition. Thank you.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Eileen M. Rehrmann in recognition of your achievements as the first female executive of Harford County, a member of the Maryland General Assembly, and establishing the Women Legislators of Maryland Foundation. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 28th day of March 2024.
Recognizing the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, we are joined this morning by a very, very special guest of the Black Caucus and of the Speaker. We are joined by the president of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, Representative Laura Hall from Alabama. We are so pleased to have our leader of the National Black Caucus here with us today, our colleague from the great state of Alabama. The National Black Caucus State Legislators, the premier organization representing and serving the interests of African American legislators. With more than 700 members representing more than 60 million Americans, NBCSL serves as a national network, advocate, and catalyst for public policy, innovation, information exchange, and joint action on critical issues affecting African Americans and other marginalized communities. She's also joined today by Lakimba Desadie, who is the executive director of the National Black Caucus, and I want to invite all of the executive committee members to join me at the front. Thank you. Let's give another round of applause.
Yea and nay. Consent calendar number 1. House bills passed in the Senate. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 23.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of House Bill 23, be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
So ordered. Message from the Senate. Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the bills and committee assignments.
Senate Bill 415, Senator Lewis Young. House rules.
Report of the Committee on Appropriations. Report number 13. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1525, Maryland Stadium Authority, Camden Yards Football Sports Facility Special Funds established. In favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
There's one amendment. It's technical. Moving the amendment.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters. Report number 19. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 1, Electricity and Gas Retail Supply Regulation and Consumer Protection. In favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before the House right now is Senate Bill 1, and this is quite a large bill that will save ratepayers between $150 million on energy bills and $50 million on gas. SB 1 alters the regulatory requirements for the marketing and sale of electricity and gas by retail suppliers, utilities, and related entities. Most of the requirements are related to the residential service. And in general, the bill establishes an energy salesperson license, an energy vendor license. It establishes and updates and aligns licensing requirements for electricity and gas suppliers and enhances related penalties, establishes new requirements for residential electricity supplier contracts, establishes new reporting requirements for billing entities, establishes new requirements on standard offer service marketing, establishes an additional requirements on green power marketing, and additional requirements for residential energy retailers. The bill provides additional support for the PSC to handle its expanded responsibilities under the bill. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. No. Opposed?
Madam Speaker, move so much be considered the reading of the amendments. I apologize. He hasn't read them yet. I haven't read the amendments, Madam Speaker. Sorry.
Okay. On the amendments.
No. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments, Madam Speaker.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 excludes certain centrally managed structures and on-site generators from the scope of a retail electric customer, authorizes the PSC to adopt criteria for determining whether electric and gas companies may recover the costs of certain marketing and other communications through rates, excludes a member-regulated cooperative from certain marketing provisions, prohibits an electricity supplier from entering into an agreement to bypass certain interconnections and distribution services, makes technical changes. Amendment number 3 clarifies green power provisions by defining the term green power and aligning its source locations with existing renewable energy certificates, provides greater specificity in PSC's oversight and procedures over the marketing and sale of green power, and makes additional conforming changes. Please move the amendments.
Madam Speaker, I've got some questions on that amendments before they're adopted.
Move the amendments first.
Well, I have questions before we adopt them.
Let me move the. Yeah, you can still have a question. Maybe some questions after we move it. Okay.
But then they're already moved. I just wanted some questions before we adopt those amendments because I think
moving amendment is not adopting amendments.
Go ahead.
Okay. We're moving the amendments. So you want to say something? Whatever. Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its titles? Gentleman from the...
So since we already adopted these amendments, I guess I'll ask the question on the amended bill. The amended bill, amendment number 2, had some language in there about data centers, if I recalled, and I appreciate it. The floor leader could elaborate on that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Speaker. Thank you. And it's not data center specific. It has to do with co-location of any facility next to a generation facility. And the whole purpose of the amendment is essentially that you can't circumvent paying for the impact to the grid. And so if, let's just say, it were a data center co-located next to a generation station, that could potentially draw more energy or double the amount of energy, as we saw with Brandon Shores, from the grid. And therefore, since Maryland is a huge importer of electricity, it would fall on the ratepayers to pay an exorbitant amount and all of the costs for the updated and distribution and transmission systems to bring in more energy so that their homes could have the electrons needed to provide energy for their houses from out of state.
So this amendment, as adopted, and this is just now hitting the floor, and this is the first time we're seeing it if we're not on the committee. Would this amendment disallow data centers from getting any type of auxiliary backup, like maybe diesel power generators or some other type of battery walls, or any type of solution from Tesla, or maybe connecting it to liquid gas?
No, it does not. This bill has nothing to do with that. Or this amendment, doesn't it? That's totally different, separate from this.
So if you wanted to open a data center in Maryland, you'd still be able to provide backup generation?
Yes, correct.
From what fuel source?
Anyone you want. I mean, right now, you would have to go through a CPCN process. However, there's another bill that we will probably take up here in the next week or so that will exempt that. So this does not pertain to that, nor does it apply.
Okay, well, I appreciate the information. I know some other members have questions, so thank you.
I did, Madam Speaker.
Are you still communicating with the two of you? Okay. Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The floor leader, you went through it, and I think we captured most of what the potentiality is about the issue of direct, I'm probably not using the correct nomenclature, direct transmission to an entity. Was there any testimony or any indication from particularized industries that they wanted to do that? I mean, that wasn't in the bill as the Senate passed it, obviously, because it was included in your amendment. Was there any testimony offered by any particular industries that, like, hey, we'd like to do this, and we think that maybe this would be more economical for us to come and site our business here in Maryland?
Not necessarily in the committee, but I can tell you that there has been ongoing dialogue at the PJM level, specifically surrounding this, and it's happening throughout the entire PJM grid.
So when you say it's happening, we're referring to whether they be data centers, whether they be something else that is a potentially fairly substantial user of electricity that says, hey, I've got a direct connection. And the reason that I ask is I can tell you why is this. There are some facilities in the state. One of them is in my county where I live that was a coal-fired power plant that is closing in 2 months. And they will tell you they're closing because of the mandates of Maryland's legislature and some federal stuff too. And it's going to take about 60, 70 jobs, and it's going to cost us millions and millions of dollars to pay for the blueprint. We're not going to get the personal property taxes and things of that. And it's directly connected to the grid because it's a power generator. They produce power. They go directly into the grid that feeds to PJM. And so there's some discussion about these entities of maybe it would be great to locate new businesses there because of the interconnectivity, that they could get economies of scale by doing that. Well, this amendment would eliminate those possibilities, right?
No, it wouldn't. But first, let me just say, this has nothing to do with the blueprint. Second, to touch on coal is being priced out of the market. That is why coal is going away. Frankly, natural gas is running it out of the market.
Well,
this bill would not preclude that from happening because that coal plant will not be operational. Additionally, there are other plans in the works for some of these shutting down coal facilities to transition them, whether it's battery storage or potentially maybe a third generation nuclear power plant. So there are other things within that make a lot of sense to replace the coal plant that has been priced out.
So, and I appreciate that. I mean, we don't have to get engaged in discussion. When I said the blueprint, what I meant is that we impose a responsibility on every county to pay millions and millions and millions of dollars or more for things that we mandate. They have to do that from taxes. The second largest provider of corporate personal property taxes in my county, well, they're out of business. We don't get that money. The largest one was a paper mill. They provided millions of dollars. We don't get that money either. So my point is that everything we do here, it's like ripples in a pond. It has effects. We don't want to think about the effects because we got advocate A on this side and advocate B on this side, and we want to satisfy the advocates that week or that month or that session. But what we do when we cast those stones out into the pond ripples throughout a variety of people's lives. And so I appreciate what you're saying, that this is going on throughout the PJM interconnector grid where entities are coming and saying, hey, perhaps we could just be direct. You could provide the power directly to us rather than go through the typical utility process, because we have a facility that is set up for that. People have invested millions of dollars to connect us directly to the grid for whatever reason in our prior use. To your knowledge, I think I'm probably getting this wrong, there are 13 states in PJM or more than that?
Correct.
13 states. I got it right. It's shocking. 13 states in the PJM system. Are there any other states that have adopted a policy that says that you can't do this, to your knowledge, that you can't have this direct production that the amendment would strike out?
I'm not aware, but also keep in mind Maryland is an importer of energy, so
Right.
that is something else to factor in.
Right. We don't produce enough energy. When you say, coal power plants close down, natural gas plants close down. In Maryland, eventually everything's going to close down except for probably the nuclear Calvert Cliffs plant, and we'll just import all of our energy from places like Ohio and West Virginia where coal plants still exist. But if no other place has done this, I guess is my question, to your knowledge, and no industries came forward and said why they want to do it, what was the rationale behind the amendment differing it from the Senate version of the bill that just passed a couple days ago?
So the Senate bill passed about 3 weeks ago, but let's bring this back. Yeah, March 8th it passed.
Okay.
But let's kind of bring this back, because I think what you want to get at is reliability, and I think that's what you're kind of talking about. And so what this is essentially protecting ratepayers, one, but two, also protecting the reliability portion of our grid, so that way we don't have somebody come in here and suck off twice the amount of energy as Brandon Shore's going offline and then throwing the entire grid into chaos. That is what we are doing through this amendment.
Would the entities who want to do this, both the power provider and the end user, would they have to go for Public Service Commission approval or some level of PJM regulatory review to say, hey, to avoid exactly what you're saying? We want to do this at point A, we want to buy directly, and the regulatory authorities have the ability to say, you would, I think your words were suck off, you would siphon this, I'll use siphon, I like siphon better. You would siphon this energy into, and it would cause grid reliability problems. Couldn't we solve that just by simply allowing the regulatory authorities to say, hey, we have to approve your arrangement, so that won't happen?
It is always comedy with you and ECM.
Well, I don't have my good friend from Charles County up, so I have to take my chances.
So there is not currently a process within the PSC, and we are setting up that framework, as well as the PJM is setting up a framework to do this.
So is the framework, I mean, and you guys are the experts in this, and I'll accept your legislative intent. The amendment, though, isn't a framework that could allow it. The amendment is saying, no, you can't do it. Is that right?
Correct. The amendment is protecting ratepayers and saying, no, we want you to go through the typical process through the PSC, so that way unnecessary costs and an unnecessary burden doesn't go on to ratepayers. That is what we are saying in this amendment.
Okay. A slightly different question. Something I really like about the bill, and I want to make sure that this is still as we understand it, and I don't know if it's in the amendments or not. My understanding is that the direction of the bill originally, at least from things I've read publicly and speaking to the Senate sponsor at least once, was to cut out a lot of the sort of fly-by-night operations that come in and paper your grocery store parking lot with flyers and say, hey, I'm going to save you, hundreds of dollars a year if you just agree to fill out a piece of paper. And, I don't really know where my power comes from. It obviously comes from the grid. It doesn't come from one particular place. And those people, some of them were bad actors. I think that's pretty clear, where people were winding up paying more money. They were getting ripped off, for want of a better phrase. Is that all still in the bill? Was that changed at all by amendment?
No, that is, there are still significant guardrails to prevent against unscrupulous activity.
And do any of the regulated utilities in Maryland, to your knowledge, the providers, the energy providers here, do any of them have affiliates, subsidiaries, entities of their companies that also provide this type of, you're not just a utility customer of mine, but you can choose to buy your energy through this differentiated process?
No, there was a divorce. I think what you're getting at is Exelon, which had BGE, Pepco, and Constellation. They split. So two parties went one way, the other party went the other. But I think what you're trying to get at here is the standard offer service market.
Right.
Okay, so standard offer service is a competitive market, and it's an auction. It has a ton of oversight in that. That oversight includes the PSC, the PJM, and the OPC. It happens in 2 auctions every 6 months, and depending on the utility, there is a look-back period for what they got or what the utility purchased at that auction, and then they open it up and post it for everybody in the world to see on the PSC's website. For instance, I'll give you an example, SMECO. On the SOS auction, it is a complete pass-through. They don't make anything off it. Right. So they pass that on right off to the customer at the same price per kilowatt hour that they purchased it, essentially. There's a transition there, but that's essentially what is happening. These other companies are selling essentially the same exact electrons that they purchased off wholesalers at many times 3, 4, 5x of what SOS is. And that is what we're trying to use as our baseline.
Okay. So, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I live in an area where Potomac Edison is our power supplier. When I get a bill, it comes from Potomac Edison. It doesn't come from BG&E or Washington Gas or SMECO. Do I have the ability to request standard offer service from BGE? Am I like, hey, you know what? I think BGE is going to save me some money, or maybe I just like them better. I don't know. And I can say, I want power from BGE as opposed to from Potomac Edison.
No, but that's also not how it works, right?
Right.
I think what we're trying to make the argument of, or I've continually heard, is that, we're giving the monopoly some sort of a windfall. The utilities have a monopoly on distribution and transmission, right? And so that's so that our roads aren't dug up every hour on the hour so somebody can come in. And it would be unbelievably expensive, right? But I would offer that standard offer service works the exact same way for Potomac Edison as it does for BG&E and it does for SMECO.
So can in the example I use, can Potomac Edison's prices to me, can they be undercut? Can I outside of this process where I go to maybe the guy in the grocery store parking lot and say I want to sign up for Superstar Energy and it's going to be cheaper. Outside of doing that, because I don't want to do that, and I'm not sure hardly anyone should really be doing that. But outside of that, is there a mechanism for me to say I can price myself in between the major players, Potomac Edison, BG&E, Exelon, whatever it may be, and choose one that fits me best? Or do I have to sort of go, so I get your point, they invested in, and that's what we regulate through the PSC, the use of their transition system or transmission system. But can I go on a marketplace and say I can pick among the providers for standard offer service and get a cheaper rate?
That's somewhat of a convoluted question. For standard offer service, no. However, there's still choice in the bill. So if a retail energy supplier can get you your electrons cheaper than standard offer service, they're allowed to do that in this bill. So we do not remove the ability to have choice. You wouldn't want the system that you are arguing for, because that would just be very confusing and very expensive to have these utility monopolies, again, competing over the distribution and transmission And then once they sign you up, then you are offered standard offer service. So that doesn't, yes, there is choice, no on standard offer service.
Thank you. And the final thing, in the amendments, because we're trying to focus on the amendments, you said there's an amendment, I believe you read, that relates to a particular cooperative or does something different. Is that SMECO? Is that what's referred to?
So both cooperatives are in the bill.
Chop Tank and SMECO?
Chop Tank is in the bill. However, to the benefit of the Eastern Shore delegation, they don't have any suppliers in their area. So they wouldn't have a need to market or educate their customers. The reason we allow for marketing and education is, frankly, because if you get signed up for a retail energy supplier and you're trying to get out of the bill, maybe somebody fleeced you, right? And now you have this exorbitant bill. You call up BGE and you're trying to get out. Most people don't even know this. BGE can't even tell you that there is something called standard offer service. They're not even allowed to. So we don't want billboards all over, Maryland, but we do want to allow the cooperatives as well as the IOUs, the investor-owned utilities, to be able to tell their customers these products exist and educate them that, hey, you might be paying 18 cents per kilowatt hour, so double on your electric bill, but we have this product that is literally half.
So I'm just trying to understand. So the only differentiation in the amendment then with SMECO is it places it in the same position as the private or corporate utilities with respect to their ability to market or provide some kind of information to consumers, and then does it allow them to recoup those funds that they spend somehow?
Yes, because SMECO doesn't have a profit off it. Like, the members own that cooperative. So we do allow them to recover a small marginal amount from the PSC through rates, so that way they can educate their consumers.
Thank you. I appreciate your concerns. I don't know if anyone else has any questions, but as we've discussed previously, I appreciate your consideration. It's a Senate bill, and if amendments can be offered, we'll offer them tomorrow. I know you've got some things going on that hopefully work out well. So I don't have any more questions at this time, subject to potential amendment on third reader, unless anyone else in the chamber would, certainly, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 150, State Government Office of Legislative Audits, Performance Audits favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 225, Occupational Safety and Health Advisory Board, sunset extension. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 removes the sunset provision and requires the Department of Labor to submit a report to the Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee on July 1st of 2025 and every 4 years thereafter. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 234, Unemployment Insurance Work Search Requirement Exemption for Federal Civilian Employees during a federal government shutdown. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 261, State Board of Barbers, sunset extension and report. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 repeals the sunset provision and requires the Department of Labor to submit a report by July 1st, 2025, and every 4 years thereafter, with information requested by the Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 264, State Board of Cosmetologists, Sunset Extension and Report. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to do that 3 more times. Move so much to be considered a reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 repeals the sunset provision and requires a report from the Department of Labor by July 1st of 2025 and every 4 years thereafter with information requested by the Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 288, State Board of Individual Tax Preparers, Sunset Extension and Report. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered a reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 repeals the sunset provision and requires a report by July 1st, 2025, and every 4 years thereafter with information requested by the Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 296, State Board of Professional Land Surveyors, Sunset Extension and Report. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. One last time. Move so much to be considered a reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 repeals the sunset provision and requires the Department of Labor to submit a report by July 1st of 2025 and every 4 years thereafter with information requested by the Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 297, State Board for Professional Engineers, Engineer Members, Qualifications. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 400, Corporations and Associations, Definitions, Emergencies, and Outstanding Stock. Revisions. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 466, Wage and Hour Law, Minor League Baseball Players. Exemption. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 476, Workers' Comp, Occupational Disease Presumptions, First Responders, Caring for Public Employees in the Safety Professions, CAPES Act. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 485, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program, modifications, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 511, Maryland Department of Labor, report on apprenticeship mentoring ratios, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 525, Labor and Employment, Equal Pay for Equal Work, Wage Range Transparency, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 534, Electronic Transaction Protection Act, repeal, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 536, Environment, Nuclear Power Plants, Emergency Preparedness, Radiation and Emergency Preparedness and Protection Act, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 544, Corporations and Associations, Ratification of Defective Corporate Acts, Alterations, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 843, Workers' Compensation, Benefits, Hearing Loss, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 846, Maryland Department of Labor, Unemployment Insurance, Study on Actively Seeking Work Requirements, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters, report number 20. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 27, Cosmetology Licensures Compact, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 38, Wage Payment and Collection, Pay Stubs and Pay Statements, Required Information, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 41, Consumer Protection, Consumer Reporting Agencies, Information in Consumer Credit Reports, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 92, Places of Public Accommodation, Motion Picture Houses, Captioning, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 229, insurance penalties, unauthorized insurers, insurance producers, and public adjusters. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Report of the Committee on, excuse me. I got more. I'm trying to rush it. Sorry. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 230, insurance hearing representation. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The amendment is technical. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 231, insurance protections after loss or damage to property. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 conforms the bill to House Bill 36. Pass that out of the chamber. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 254, vehicle laws, motor vehicle insurance companies, requirements. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 461, State Real Estate Commission complaints, advertising violations. Favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 462, licensed real estate brokers, branch offices, designation of managers. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 648, business regulation, contractors, subcontractors, and brokers, prohibited conduct. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 806, business regulation, licensed home improvement contractors, liability insurance. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 1003, vehicle laws, manufacturers and dealers, delivery of vehicles. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 1041, alcoholic beverages, breweries, wineries, and distilleries, direct delivery. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
As amended, Senate Bill 1041 establishes permits authorizing the direct delivery of specified alcoholic beverages to a consumer in the state. Amendment number 1 is technical. Move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 1044, cosmetologist, aesthetic services, definition favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 24. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 220, public health services and protections, revisions, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much for reading an amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 makes technical changes. Amendment 2 provides for an update name of the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 267, motor vehicle administration and local health departments, death certificates, issuance of copies, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 600, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, dental services, coverage and rate study, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 694, Maryland Department of Health, Health Commissions and Maryland Insurance Administration, study, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 751, Public Health, Opioid Restitution Advisory Council and Fund, revisions, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 938, Maryland Department of Health, Public Education Campaign on Prostate, Lung, and Breast Cancer Prevention, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 974, Behavioral Health Crisis Response Services, 988, Trust Fund Fees, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just had a quick question on this for clarification for floor leader, if possible.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Good morning. I just want to confirm, is this in the same posture as the House bill?
Yes, it is still in the same posture.
Okay, so it still includes that additional fee that we discussed a couple weeks ago?
Yes, the 25-cent fee, $3 a year. It is still in the bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1009, Task Force on Responsible Use of Natural Psychedelic Substances. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1059, Maternal Health Assessments, Referrals, and Reporting, Maryland Maternal Health Act of 2024. Favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 17. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 36, Correctional Services, Investigation of Suspected Homicide Reporting. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 80, Estates and Trust, Appointment of Personal Representative. Objections? Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 116, Orphans Court Judges, Restriction on Practicing Law. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 136, Family Law, Marriage Ceremony, Designation of Deputy Clerk. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 159, Courts, Military Records, Recordation and Inspection. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 187, Correctional Services, Inmate Employment, Agricultural Work. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 260, Division of Parole and Probation, Criteria for Earned Compliance Credit, Exception for Supervision Fees. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, just a quick clarifying question for the floor leader, if there's one.
Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to confirm, this is in the same posture as the House version that passed?
Yes.
And just to confirm, this also reduces fees?
I'm sorry?
We're on 260? Yeah. This reduces fees for people that are on supervised probation?
What it says is it alters the definition of an earned compliance credit to exclude specified monthly supervision fees. So in other words, it would allow somebody who's on probation, if they are not completely up to date with the fees that they have to pay on probation, to continue to earn the compliance credit, which shortens the length of probation in the long run. They still have to pay the probation fees. It would just shorten the length of time that they're on probation, or allow them to shorten that length of time.
Okay, thank you for answering that. Just for the good of the order, we've increased a lot of fees this year on folks, but if you happen to have committed a crime on supervised probation, we've now created a scenario in which you could actually have your fees reduced. So I just wanted to put that out there. Raising fees on the law-abiding citizens, reducing fees on the folks that have been convicted of crime.
Chairman of the committee, I knew you were going to get up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's absolutely not what the bill does. What the bill says is that if somebody is on probation and they're not completely up to date with their fees, they could still earn the credit that would shorten their length of probation in the long term. They're still responsible for paying the fees at the end of the day. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 319, Regulated Firearms, Maryland Judiciary, Reporting Requirements, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 18. Clerk will read the first.
Senate Bill 75, Maryland Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, transfers as custodian for the benefit of a minor, authorization of court, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 113, Criminal Law, Sexual Solicitation of a Minor Through Child Pornography, prohibition, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 130, Criminal Law, Indecent Exposure Within the Presence of a Minor, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 147, Real Property, Access to Counsel in Evictions Program, mandated reports, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 164, Estates and Trust, Interested Person, definition, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 251, Correctional Services, Division of Pretrial Detention and Services, Facilities, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 287, Department of State Police, Professional Occupations, Application Process, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 344, Criminal and Civil Trespass, Professional Land Surveyors, exception, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means. Report number 23.
Madam Speaker?
Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments. Oh, I apologize. Yes. Sorry, Mr. Rhodes.
House Bill 1524, horse racing, racing facility ownership and construction, racing operations. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 makes it technical and clarifying changes, requires a joint plan between the Maryland Thoroughbred Racetrack Operating Authority and the Department of Housing and Community Development for certain investments in and around the Pimlico Racing Facility site, clarifies the definition of horse racing licensee for purposes of the sports wagering law, maintains certain tax benefits related to the transfer of the Bowie Race Course Training Center, authorizes the governor to transfer certain funds by budget amendment to the Maryland Racing Operations Fund for working capital, and requires the Maryland Thoroughbred Racetrack Operating Authority to transfer or assign certain obligations before it sunsets. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its item? Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the floor leader please rise on the bill?
Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Hey, good morning. This looks like a very complicated bill. I mean, it has $400 million in the fiscal note. This is a session that we've raised record amounts of taxes. Would it be possible that we hold the bill until tomorrow or the next appropriate session you're choosing?
Tomorrow's fine, Madam Speaker.
Excuse me?
Tomorrow's fine.
Okay.
So move to...
Question for the House to Special Order HB 1524 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All
Thank
in
you.
favor
Appreciate
signify
that.
by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered. Concurrence calendar number 1. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
Wait a minute. Yeah, hang on. House Bill 42, Public Health Services and Protections, revisions. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. House. Shouldn't you have him read it? Clerk will read the bill. Do you need to read it?
No, just call the roll.
Okay. All right. House Bill 42 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Any more in the lounge? Anyone else back there? Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 42, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 136 members present, the House is still in order. Calendar of third reading, House Bill number 126. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 538, Land Use, Affordable Housing, Zoning Density, and Permitting, Housing Expansion and Affordability Act of 2024.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had a question for the floor leader. I'll be quick.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning.
Good morning. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the different options for a qualified project. One appears to be, now that I've read the bill, a annually established and identified by DHCD's multifamily rental financing program guide. So that's the one where we're talking about maybe the low-income housing tax credit projects, the different ones that might fall under DHCD programs. And then the second one is neo rail projects, and the third is the nonprofits, I think. So we were having a back and forth about how private developers might be able to access this. So I'm just going to ask, and then we'll move on with the day. But is there a way for a private developer that isn't falling under certain guidelines that I'm explaining on the floor here to present a qualified project?
Thank you for that question. So it's not quite right. So the three categories are near transit, nonprofits, and then on formerly owned state campuses. The language that you cited from DHCD is actually about the definition of what a substantial renovation is, and it comes from DHCD guidelines. But to answer your actual question, yes. Under the bill, private developers can move forward with these projects near transit in conjunction with nonprofits or on formerly state-owned campuses with no involvement from DHCD. In fact, that's the point of the bill. We hope that for-profit developers will help us close this housing shortage.
Right. So this is not as broadly a draft bill as I'm imagining, because you're talking about rail, you're talking about nonprofit, you're talking about previously owned state-owned land. So if it doesn't fall under one of those general categories, this bill doesn't inherently apply.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask a question of the floor leader, please?
Never bring a floor leader to a chair fight.
And thank you for being, you were wonderful yesterday, and for being available for questions. We have a single family neighborhood in our district, one of the oldest African American neighborhoods in Prince George's County, and they live close to a metro rail station. And they raised a question about the transit-oriented part of the bill. Can you explain how the bill section, how that section would impact them? I really would appreciate it.
Sure, it's a single-family home neighborhood, you said?
Yes.
Great, so the provision of the bill related to transit would not affect them. If you look at the reprint on page 8, there's language that says if something is existing single-family home, the transit-oriented provisions do not apply. So there's no density bonus in a single-family home neighborhood within 0.75 miles of transit. And also want to thank you, but also your district mates, one a member of the committee, the other chair of appropriations, for advocating for your community.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sure. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there, gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to talk about a little bit how this bill would impact southeastern Baltimore County so that the body has an idea of what kind of projects we're really looking at if this were to move forward. So District 6 is largely, in many ways, historic, and the Fort Howard property is a great example of that. For those of you who don't know, Fort Howard was where the British landed to attempt to sack Baltimore. It's largely where the Battle of Baltimore was fought, and largely where the British were defeated, ending the War of 1812 and finally liberating us from the British historically. It went on to be an artillery battery, a veterans hospital, and when that shut down, the communities really advocated to make that property one that really not only provided some housing generally to the community, but offered services and amenities to veterans, which it had historically offered. Unfortunately, the lease to the property was acquired by a slumlord who wanted to develop high-density housing on a property that might be one of the most historic in the Baltimore region. He failed to do that. He's floundered terribly. There have been offers by the county council to develop some housing on the property, but those have largely fallen on deaf ears as the gentleman insisted on developing high-density housing on the property. He eventually went on to partner with Himmelrich Associates, a Baltimore-based developer who is incessant about pursuing high-density housing on what may be one of Baltimore's most historic properties. And if you look at the committee testimony, who's supporting this bill with amendments is Himmelrich Associates. And that's what this bill is really about, is developers being able to ram through projects that a community has been able to hold off for decades because the developer is just so damn unreasonable. And that is a real problem for communities. We're going to be willing to allow developers to come into, like this, Fort Howard is going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to have high density housing in Fort Howard if this bill goes through. You could see the amendment in the request in the committee testimony. They're actually asking for an exemption for manufactured homes on property that was federal government property. So these are the types of projects that we're going to have to feel the pain for, and the reasonable requests of the adjacent communities, requests such as amenities for veterans, are going to fall on deaf ears. And this is largely, I think, the concern by our district, our jurisdiction, and jurisdictions around the state as to why we shouldn't obliterate local land use authority. And that's why I'll be no today.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Calvert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 538 is just more central planning from the one-party state. And I was reading what that one-party state of central planning has begotten us. There's an article about Baltimore City where there are 37,000 vacant or abandoned houses. 37,000. If we wanted to create homeowners in Maryland, which really should be the objective, more homeowners, more homeownership, we would do whatever it takes to try to assist individuals to buy these houses, which Brandon Scott has said you can now buy for $1 if you agree to live in it. I mean, that's a good idea. Except that you would need to rehab it, and it would still, in many cases, with these 37 houses, many of them, you could afford to live in them because it would be workable, in some cases, to repair them. But why aren't people moving in? Why aren't they taking advantage of the 37,000 vacant properties in Baltimore City that are now for sale for $1? Because the central planners continue to wreck the state and the city with bills like this. There's a pretty straightforward and easy solution to get people to move back into these houses. A city that once had 1 million people plus and now has approximately half that, and continues to bleed population, including Baltimore County now as well. How do we get people to move back in houses that are already there, granted, that need to be fixed up, but are still there nonetheless? Well, maybe the state could cut the property tax in half. Maybe the locals could cut the property taxes, which are simply unsustainable. Maybe the streets could be policed better, and there could be consequences for crime. And maybe we could have school choice for anyone that bought one of these houses and moved into them. I dare say we would have a lot of people moving back into the city if we offered that kind of package. But instead, we have this bill, which is doubling down on failure. And while it's possible this bill could help Baltimore City some, and I hope it does, I genuinely do, doesn't solve the fundamental problem of the squalor that we're seeing occurring in many parts of the state. And to be fair, it's not just in Baltimore. And it's from central planners like this who go and create bills that buy off the development community in the perfect crony capitalism type bill, which is what HB 538 is. And it's wrong. If we want to help people, let's directly help them buy these houses. Let's help them become owners in Baltimore City of the 37,000 houses and growing that are vacant. And let's offer them school choice. And let's ask them to live there for a certain amount of time. And let's give them some tax breaks at the state level so they can afford to stay there. Let's do all those things. Let's fix what's already broken instead of passing Bill 538, which is going to break even more places. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Just me.
Okay. Young lady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank my good friend from Calvert County for his ongoing passion for Baltimore City, a place from whence, no, he does not come from there, but I appreciate his advocacy. I do feel it's important that we set the record straight. There are not 37,000 vacant homes in Baltimore City. No matter how many times you say it, it's not 37,000 homes. We actually have 13,000 vacant homes, but we do have 20,000 vacant lots. So those are things that still impact communities, but I want to make sure that we're saying everything accurately. Now, something that you should know is that many homes that are older are being rehabbed all across the city. I know that many of my good friends in the 46th district, they've seen how Federal Hill has been transformed and Canton. And I, in fact, personally live in a house that's over 100 years old that had been vacant for almost 25 years because we do have policies in place to encourage people to rehab vacants, to put those holes on blocks that make communities whole. But I also want to let you know that when we do not have strategies that are robust, there's no one size that fits all, we can really be missing opportunity. And that's why bills like this are important. I think you mentioned a few things, my good friend, that we could be thinking about, but I think you don't realize we're already thinking about them. So particularly when we discuss the property tax rate in Baltimore City, it is indeed the highest property tax rate in the state. And I believe it might have been 3 sessions ago that I was educating you a bit on the fact that 31% of the property in Baltimore City is not eligible for taxation because it's owned by many important institutions that everyone in this room relies upon, including higher education institutions, hospitals, houses of worship, cultural institutions, and so forth. Oh, and federal and state-owned buildings. So when people say our taxes are higher, it's because 1 out of every 3 property tax dollars is not available to us. Something else to remember is that we are an independent city that is not within a county. So when people move from Baltimore City to Baltimore County, it is a population cliff. But if someone moves from Chicago to Cook County, that is not captured as population loss because Chicago is inside of Cook County. So I just want to make sure that when we are making our cases for or against legislation on the floor, that we have a fidelity to facts and information. Our opinions do not become empirical data because there is data out there. There are 13,000 vacant homes, and because of the good leadership of the previous governor and the current governor, we're going to continue to have strategic demolition around those vacants to stabilize neighborhoods and stabilize communities. So I just want to set the record straight, and thank you all for listening.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Calvert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In the bill, on the reprint, page 9, it says that some of the folks who can build and get these special considerations of House Bill 538, they can be controlled by nonprofit organizations. I fail to see how that helps any community when you have a nonprofit that by definition doesn't pay property tax. So the idea is to cut the property tax to have people and families move into these houses and build on these properties so they actually are homeowners. But the bill actually has nonprofits as one of the key areas, which makes absolutely no sense. And so I do appreciate the gentle lady from Baltimore City, and we are friends. And we do have a lot of commonality on this issue. We actually do. But the fact of the matter is that the population continues to decline in Baltimore City. And bills like this aren't going to solve the problem. They're just going to make it worse. So for all those reasons, I'm voting no. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, first, I just want to thank all of our colleagues from the minority party for the productive, albeit a little bit lengthy debate we had yesterday and that we're having a little bit today. We learned a lot. We learned that we have a massive housing shortage problem in Maryland. We learned that this bill will provide both market rate housing and housing for those who need it the most. And we learned a little bit about the tools that counties still retain under this bill to manage growth for themselves. On a personal note, I learned never to name the Florida governor on the floor ever again. One thing we didn't talk about, however, is economic competitiveness. So if you read the comptroller's report from a few months ago, you'll know that housing is economic development, and it's really difficult to attract, to echo the appropriation chair's comments from last week, it's really difficult to attract both businesses and residents to move here with housing so expensive. And it's also really difficult to tackle our structural budget challenges when we have out net migration and population loss across the state. This bill ensures that securing shelter, a basic human necessity, doesn't break the bank. So it will help working class people, like the woman in Urbana who cleans the tables at Waffle House, but it will also help poor people, like the homeless veteran in Cumberland, get him housing. It'll help people that are slightly wealthier. It'll help, for example, the autistic man in Colombia who wants to gain his independence by living on his own for the first time. It will give the 7-year-old girl in Bowie a bedroom of her own for the first time. And yes, this bill will help the kinds of hardworking Marylanders who work on bridges at 1:30 in the morning while the rest of us sleep. This bill will not solve all of our housing problems. It will not solve all of our economic problems, but it does provide a small step towards the goal of abundant housing for all, and I would urge a green vote.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We did learn a couple of things yesterday, and that is this will circumvent local control. And if you look at the fiscal note of the bill, it specifically states on, I believe, page 5 under land use, state law specifies that it is the policy of the state that the orderly development and use of land and structure requires comprehensive regulation through implementation of local planning and zoning controls. Essentially what we're doing is circumventing our own state policy by removing those controls. You can't make this stuff up. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 538, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Vote change on House Bill 42 from yea to nay, please.
Any other vote changes? Okay. That ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements, appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will vote at 12:30, followed by, actually, bill hearing followed by voting at 12:30. Thank you.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. The House Judiciary Committee will vote at 12 o'clock. We will vote at 12 o'clock, followed by bill hearings at 1 o'clock. Go O's.
Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not sure what's wrong with the Appropriations Committee Chair. The E&T Committee will not be meeting today. Play ball.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will have bill hearings at 1 p.m.
Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Economic Matters Committee will have bill hearings at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Please be on time.
Health and Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health and Government Operations Committee will have bill hearings at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any appropriations for a second shot?
Yes, I've been inspired by the chair of E&T. We're going to vote and have bill hearings at noon. Thank you.
Okay. Any subcommittee announcements? Is this the subcommittee or this is your?
No, this is legit.
Legit. Okay. Okay. the gentleman from Baltimore City, I'm going to refer to you.
The subcommittee on health occupations will meet immediately after we adjourn very, promptly.
I wonder why. Okay. Any other yes, go ahead. Subcommittee announcements.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motor Vehicles and Transportation will meet at 12:30 on Zoom. 12:30. Thank you.
Any other subcommittees? Okay. Any delegation announcements? Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Baltimore County Delegation will meet online at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Baltimore City House delegation will be meeting at 8:30 a.m. via Zoom.
Okay. Charles.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Southern Maryland delegation will meet tomorrow at 9 via Zoom.
Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Anne Arundel County delegation will be meeting today at 3 p.m. for a voting session on Zoom.
No other, yes. Yes.
Madam Speaker, correction, the Ways and Means will have bill hearings at 12 p.m. today. 12 p.m.
Any other committee chair wants to change anything? So. Okay. All right. You good? You're good. You're good. Okay. Where did I leave off? Any caucus announcements? Okay. Women's History Moment. Delegate representing Prince George's County.
Well, as women continue to make history, I am honored to serve as, I believe, the first woman to honor the women during Women's History Month. First man, sorry.
I was wondering, something you wanted to tell us, or? Because I thought it was you. Are you okay? You going to get through this?
Permission to start over, Madam Speaker.
Definitely permission granted.
Good morning, colleagues, and happy Women's History Month. I greet you all with joy. It was so nice I had to do it twice. So I'm coming back to you not only twice today, but twice to bring greetings during Women's History Month. Also, as we did during Black History Month, we want to acknowledge the great roll call that we have throughout the county that we want to acknowledge on today. Is that all right? So if you follow me, we'll be all right. There are some that I probably left out because I started too late working on this. So please bear with me. You will get acknowledged at some point. First, we have Allegheny County. Allegheny County, are they here? Okay. Born in Allegheny County, jazz singer Alice Dar was one of the first artists to be offered a residency at more than one nightclub going on world tours. She recorded 3 albums and even appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show and at Dean Martin's nightclub in Vegas called Dino's Den. She was also the first woman of color to appear in a national magazine wearing a bikini. Anne Arundel County. From Anne Arundel County, we have Anne Green, who took over publishing the Maryland Gazette in 1767 at the death of her husband. During her tenure, she became the second woman publisher in the colonies, using her platform to criticize British rule. In Baltimore City, born in Fells Point, Barbara Mikulski became the first woman senator from Maryland and is the longest-serving senator in Maryland history. Born in Baltimore County, Amanda Smith was a Methodist preacher and former slave who founded the Amanda Smith Orphanage and Industrial Home for abandoned and destitute colored children. In Calvert County, Harriet Elizabeth Brown sued the Calvert County Board of Education for pay equity for black teachers, prompting the Maryland Teachers Pay Equalization Act, which was the first law in the country mandating equal pay for teachers of all races. A portion of Maryland's Route 2 is also named in honor of her. From Caroline County, we have Madeline Herlock, who was a silent film actress who appeared in many short comedies and over 50 short films, including being featured in Laurel and Hardy's Duck Soup. Carroll County is Dorothy Elderdice, who was an activist for Carroll County who helped organize marches for the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, and was an advocate for racial and gender equality. Even at 85, she organized a walkathon in support of the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. In Charles County is Ann Cipriano Reese, an advocate for women and children. She built the first domestic violence shelter for women in the county. From Frederick County, we have the first female president of Frostburg State Teachers College, now Frostburg State University, from 1945 to 1954, Lillian Cleveland Compton. Any Frostburg grads here? None, okay. Garrett County. Born in Garrett County, Alta Elizabeth Schrock was an American biology professor and community activist who was the first Mennonite woman in the country to earn a PhD. Born in Hartford County in 1849, Amanda Taylor Norris became Maryland's first woman physician in 1880 after establishing her practice. From Howard County is actress Margot Siebert, who's starred in shows such as Boardwalk Empire and Elementary. Born in Montgomery County, we have three-time Olympic gymnast Dominique Dawes, who is a silver, bronze, and gold medalist. And in Prince George's County, I should save this for last, but she is the first woman state's attorney for the county and the first woman county executive, Angela Also Brooks. Born in Queen Anne's County in 1882, Fannie Hamilton was a suffragist who joined the Equal Suffrage Study Club and worked as an activist and became the treasurer of that same club. In 1648, in St. Mary's County, Margaret Brent was the first documented woman in the colonies to formally request the right to vote and claim land. From Talbot County, you have Mary Bartlett Dixon, who was one of the first women to attend Johns Hopkins University School of Nursing. After graduation, she helped start the hospital in Easton, the first hospital in Easton. From Washington County, Charlotte Louise Berry was the last surviving female American veteran from the First World War. She served from 1917 to 1919 and died in 2007 at the age of 109. From Wicomico County, we have Mary Knock, who became the first elected woman from Wicomico County to serve in the state legislature. She was the first woman appointed as president pro tem of the Senate, the second woman to be elected to the Senate, and the only woman in the Senate from 1955 to 1961. From Worcester, born in Worcester County, Fannie Burkhead brought a lawsuit challenging the all-white Worcester County Commission, resulting in the election of the first black county commissioner. In 1998, she served as the interim mayor, becoming the first black woman mayor anywhere on the Eastern Shore. She also became the first black orphans court judge and first black person to win countywide office. So on today, I ask that all of my male colleagues would join me in acknowledging, last but not least, all of the women legislators, our staff, the clerks, and all those who serve here in the Maryland General Assembly. Thank you so much. This has been your Women's History Month acknowledgement.
Any personal or guest announcements?
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from the Eastern Shore. So.
Madam Speaker, it's my honor to welcome the doctor of the day. Today we're joined by Dr. Michael Murphy, who is a physician of emergency medicine. He's president of the medical staff at the only trauma center located on the Eastern Shore at Tidal Health. Thank you.
Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Madam Speaker, thank you. And to colleagues, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to do it today. I want to acknowledge my intern, Jamel Freeman, who's in the gallery. Jamel is a senior at Salisbury. I will call him, many of you have met him, he's a non-traditional student. He is also an author. Can I do this? I would encourage you to learn more about Jamel's story. Thank you, Jamel.
Young lady from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, we have joining us today in the gallery above me, Kayleen Chambers. She's shadowing my office today from South River High School, using a portion of her spring break to learn more about the legislative process. Please welcome Kayleen.
Gentle lady from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to acknowledge my intern, Julia DeMarvisco, an outstanding intern who's been with us for 9 months. She is completing her sophomore year at the University of Maryland. Please welcome Julia.
Madam Speaker.
Yes. Which one? Oh, gentle lady from Howard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd ask the body to please join in welcoming, I believe in the gallery behind me, my legacy leader, Daisy Clark, and her support dog, JJ.
Young lady from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's that time of year again where the district office chief of staff is here shadowing me today. If everyone, the body could please help me welcome. Liam Robert is with me today. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not sure if they're still here, but I'd like to welcome the Maryland DeMolay to Annapolis today. They were founded in 1921 for young men between the ages of 12 and 21. This international youth organization strives to not only create leaders, but extraordinary leaders of character. This year, they've elected Matthew McKay as their state master counselor. Matthew is the son of our colleague and former self-proclaimed eye candy of the House, and now Senator Mike McKay. The month of March is DeMolay month, and they're here to learn about state government, so please welcome them.
Any other personal or guest announcements? Okay. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There being 138 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand adjourned until Friday, March 29th at 10 a.m., legislative date March 16th. 10 a.m.